Do 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 do. Welcome, Early Watch Morning Gun Show, your source for gun talk and 2A news. So, no one's, guess it's too early on a Monday for Dano out there to join. We'll see if Dano ends up joining. I did throw a couple links out there. Let's see here. What do we have in 2A news? Have you guys heard of anything interesting going on out there? I heard about the Kamala Harris saying that she's pretty much gonna use executive powers and outlaw private gun sales and take away our guns and all sorts of stuff like that. So that's how you, that's how you get a civil war, right? That's gonna work. Um, let's see here. What other news? I don't really want to spend much time on that Kamala Harris. She's just a joke all around. Um, let's see here. What other 2A gun news was there out there? Um, going through the news sources right now, seeing if there's been anything recently, at least anything interesting to talk about. I heard Wayne LaPierre apparently spent $39,000 in one day on clothes and charged it to his NRA expense account, and then spent like 16,000, or I think it was 16,000 on a driver and a like car rental. you know, so like $39,000 in clothes. Like, I guess some of those suits are pretty dang expensive, right? But still 39,000. That's a lot. Okay, let's see what else is going on here. Gun Owners of America. So-called Second Amendment sanctuaries have been increasing in popularity around the country. Gun Owners of America began distributing this template for New York municipalities. Essentially, they want municipalities to enact legislation prohibiting the use of monies to enforce the SAFE Act and other gun control laws. I don't see any problem asking locals not to spend money on gun control enforcement. However, SAFE itself is funded through the state budget, and Albany legislators cannot defund it this way. I am not aware of the New York municipality which has enacted something like this, so I am unsure how effective this tactic is, even from a public relations standpoint. Generally, the best way to defeat gun control for gun owners to be involved in the selection and election process of candidates at all levels of government. I agree with that. That's the best way. But um, so I don't know. I'm for Second Amendment sanctuary cities and counties. I'm all for that. I mean, it's like building a wall. Let's see here. Um, let's see. Possible good news from the Second Circuit. President Donald Trump is in striking range of flipping another federal appeals court to a majority of Republican appointed judges, this one based in his home state of New York. The Senate on Wednesday confirmed Joseph Bianco to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in a 54-42 vote that included some Democratic support. A second appointment to that court, Consovoy partner Michael Park, is expected to be confirmed this week after the chamber voted to end debate on his nomination. Although a majority of appointments by a president of one party or another doesn't guarantee case outcomes, Trump has vowed to appoint conservative judges in the mold of the late Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia, a proponent of originalism and textualism. The president doesn't have to wait until the next two soon to be open Second Circuit seats are empty to nominate. And it's not clear who he's thinking about to fill those spots. The court handles cases in New York, Connecticut, and Vermont. What's up, Dano?
Good morning, Mr. Dead Horse.
So what do you think about that? Getting another conservative judge, Republican conservative judge in the Second Circuit Court for New York, Connecticut, and Vermont? Is that good news for those three states?
Well, it's certainly better than a liberal judge. And I say that with some hesitancy because we have learned our lesson that I can't remember the justice's name off the top of my head, but he's a guy, but who was conservative, but doesn't necessarily have a conservative voting record in determining constitutional issues. Yeah.
So
so there's no guarantee exactly, as the article states, that they will necessarily vote in line with the Constitution once they're in office, because now they are accountable truly to no one, where before that ultimate position they are accountable to somebody, whether it be a politician or whether it be local and they got to get elected. They're accountable to somebody.
So I'm on this website called Gun Politics New York, NY, right? gunpoliticsny.com. And it's pretty much just for, New York City or New York, the state of New York, right? And it is very well organized, very well done, very simple. And it'd be really nice to kind of find one of these for every state. Mm-hmm. And this thing's like pretty. It stays up to date. It goes all the way back to 2009 at least. This has been running every single month since 2009, and they post almost daily, it looks like, about any kind of 2A news that's going on in New York. And I posted the link out there in the chats. And to let people know, Early Watch is back on Gun Channels. There is a room over there. The link is on the front page. You can come over there to gunchannels.com, hop in the chat. Over there on the Early Watch chat on Gun Channels, they don't restrict your First Amendment, so you're able to post links and share a lot more stuff. And and there's always more, there's always, extras that go on over there. And that's how you can also get into these chats on Free For All Fridays, where we're going to open it up to where I'm just pretty much going to put the link out there. Let anyone who wants to join come be a part of Early Watch.
Yeah, taking a half step back, which is what I'd like to call it. It was just Chief Justice Roberts, John G. Roberts, was the one I'm thinking about. That when he was put up there, excuse me, he was touted as a conservative, but his voting record has been very shaky on that issue, to say the least.
Do you think there should be an age limit? Should there be like 85-year-old people like in the Supreme Court? Like how? Like I know 85-year-old people, right? Like grandmothers and stuff, and I know like even without dementia and stuff like that, how out of touch they are with like the common stuff of today. Mm-hmm. And just like so should we have like 85-year-old people in the Supreme Court, or even like running this country? Like, since there's an age limit that you got to be a minimum age, should there be like a maximum age?
I could give you a simple yes or no answer, but that would be too short. We're here to discuss it. So let's discuss. Um, First, let's look at the potential impact upon a society that justice can have, good, bad, or indifferent. Significant impact, like the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those things. Um, and what the current system is, which is nothing. Once they're there, they're there until they voluntarily step down or die. Yet we have in many states, I can't say all states, I don't know that for a fact, but in many states, mandatory annual testing of people over a certain age, and it varies from state to state. I'm not trying to imply something when I say a certain age, because in some states it may be 70, in some states it may be 68 or 72, whatever, or some other number. Testing physically and sometimes, mentally, i.e., with a paper and pencil test, their abilities just so they can continue to drive for the next year, which is where they're required to have another test to prove that they're competent because of the impact they can have through their decisions while out on the roads and possibly endangering others. And I think that the potential for endangering others is different, but more massively possible on the Supreme Court. So I think, yes, there should be. Now, what that test is, that's where you get off into the weeds. But should there be something there? Yes. What that exactly is, I'm not sure. Because we have the dangers of people trying to make that test from either party lean in a certain direction as a way of weeding out people. And sometimes I don't necessarily want people to know what the latest and greatest widget is, or what's the popular app, or the way to dress, or something like that. I want my decision makers, those to be unbiased. And that means simply look at the law and make their decision based off the law, not based off of the way the person dresses or the way that they present themselves in words, because language has kind of changed, over time, as it always does. I want them to base that decision off of the law. So I'm not necessarily excited about, well, what's the latest? Do they know what the Kardashians are doing? What are they up to? Absolutely not. I mean, and I'm being ridiculous in my example there, but I'm doing that to illuminate a point. Do I want them up to date on current things? I don't think it's important to be up to date on current things. I think it's important to remember, what does the Constitution state, and is something in line with that, or is it not? And then move forth from that point.
Well, wouldn't being up to date on current things be like a big part of that, though? Like technology within the First Amendment, and how, like, how technology works, social media, stuff like that, right? Or maybe like the technology of firearms, right? Like,
other than the size of the audience, how is a social post any different than putting a postcard with your information? Let's say that you're in high school, and you put up a little index card on a bulletin board saying that you're looking to sell something. It has your name, it has your address, so that your name, where you live, what it is that you have. You're putting information out there about yourself. The difference is the size of the crowd, which is amplified by the tool. You're still putting that information out there. And the right to privacy, whether it's via old-fashioned landlines and a right to privacy, or voice over IP and a right to privacy. The right to privacy remains a bedrock right that we have.
You don't have. Guess what, though? I mean,
that's violated regularly.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about people's right to privacies when you have them just give it away through terms and conditions. Like, oh, if you want this free app, give away your right to privacy. And that's basically what you're doing with all those free apps that you download when you don't pay for any app. That's exactly what you're doing, is giving away your right to any privacy whatsoever on your device.
And what amplifies that is when you do it on things that are truly critical, like, oh, if you want this update for your Android or your iPhone or whatever, you have to agree to a terms of service that, by the way, if you don't do this upgrade, your phone will no longer be fully functional, or maybe not functional at all. So it's like, well, what kind of then I have the choice of no phone at all, or submit to these terms of service, of which I have no recourse.
I don't know. I think there's a fine line there. I think they have to be somewhat. I think they have to know about like what's kind of going on and relevant stuff nowadays, whether it's technology or just.
Well, what do you mean by relevant?
They don't got to be hip on the latest music or whatever band or whatever, but they have to know about like technology and stuff like that. They have to be keen on that kind of stuff and kind of know about. They have to be closer to the people, like to the mass of the people, right?
But much of the technology that we think is so new is really just a variation of an older system that reaches maybe either the audience faster, or a wider audience in general. It's not truly unique.
Well, I know we know that, but do they know that it's like, do they? Okay, so look at what G-Webs did. G-Webs went to like that firearms policy
coalition,
right? And there is people in there. You can watch videos on your phone. They had no idea you could watch YouTube on your phone. Mm-hmm. People in there who write like for gun magazines and stuff like that had no idea you could watch YouTube on your phone. Come on, dude. So like I think that's I don't want someone like that in like on the Supreme Court. I'm sorry. Like I like someone who has like no idea of that kind of stuff. I mean,
yeah, but that's not an example of that. I mean, it's an example of authors and an attendee, and it was that certainly fell into that group. But
no, I know, but it's an example of some people who are usually older and being so out of touch, or so like they're used to their newspaper every morning, right? Like they don't care, like they don't know what Facebook is or how to work it or what it even really does, or like any to them they don't care, so they never look into it, they never try it.
So let me
do you think Ruth Bader Ginsburg or whatever, do you think she's on Facebook every day, or do you think she knows you can watch YouTube on your cell phone? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Let me take another angle on this, and I'm going to label it youthful ignorance. Do you think kids today understand the impact and importance society, both in the past as well as in the future, understand as an example of what Tiananmen Square means?
I don't think any society, unless it's I think the only reason why any society, even here in America, recognized what that meant anyways, is because just coming out of World War II or the Vietnam War, right? So like that's like it was that generation that lived through that. I think before that, or maybe after that, no. Like I don't know. No.
I mean, I very much, remember seeing the live CNN reports of them shooting down the students, and including the tank man. But in terms of how critical it is for democracy to flourish, and when it doesn't, what is the repercussions? That's what it illustrated. And to take it to a more closer issue to all of our hearts, the right to our Second Amendment and our right to bear arms, and what happens when you don't have that right. That clearly illustrates who has the guns, who has the power.
They're kind of seeing that now with Venezuela, right? They're like they're kind of seeing that socialist, like thing. Yeah.
If we don't go back and look at even recent history, much of our youth is not even aware of that, let alone the older people who actually were alive and saw it happen. You know, they realize
Do you
what
think that they're not aware of it, or that they are aware of it, they just don't, like, it just doesn't mean anything to them?
I can tell you that I periodically ask people little questions doing my job, and I will sneak in questions like that, and I'll word it in such a way is, do you remember hearing anything, whether it be in school or otherwise, in regards to something historical going on in the late 80s in Beijing, China? And you know, and I'll vary the way I word it a little bit. And if they say no, then I just say, oh, okay, I wasn't sure. I thought I heard something, and then I move on from there. I'm not trying to do it to make them look stupid. I'm trying to. It's like taking an oil test. I'm trying to take an oil test on the general awareness of things that happened historically, and not in ancient times either. In
Yeah,
modern times,
I
it is
watched.
the awareness of democracy, and those who have the guns have the power, and those who have the power have freedom.
I watched the thing about the Tiananmen Square tank man, and how he just disappeared and no one can find him, and it's pretty much commonly believed that he was um imprisoned and executed. And like that's pretty much like the, because he can't be found. Like there's been like massive like searches and private investigators paid for by like People and Life magazine and stuff like that. They find this guy, and you know he disappeared off the face of the earth. So everyone pretty much assumes he was executed.
It's difficult to come to any conclusion because I don't care who you pay. You're trying to find somebody. You're trying to pay somebody or whatever to track somebody in a closed society where even relatives don't talk freely to one another because they're afraid of being turned in. And by being turned in, I mean turned into the government and thus imprisoned. I mean, they trust no one, not even family. I mean, I've talked to high school age kids from China and asked them that same question, except I've asked it with a little bit more information. I said Tiananmen Square in Beijing, and they said, "Oh yes, I know where that is." And I said, "Yes. Have you heard anything historically that happened there in the late 1980s?" None of them. And I'm talking about because in this one area that I service, we have quite a few Chinese national high school students. So I would say probably greater than 10 that I have asked that question, because a lot of times, to save money, they'll tend to travel in numerous people in the car. So it's not. I've never gotten an answer of anything, and I also understand that in addition to being concerned about relatives turning them in, they're also worried about, are their friends really their friends, or will they also turn them in? But I wonder if the relatives don't tell them, who were actually alive at the time, to keep them safely ignorant. That's a weird combination of words, but safe by keeping them ignorant. They can't question or know about what happened or say the words that might get them in trouble if they don't even know what it is. Because the government monitors all communications. The Chinese version of Facebook, telephone calls, text messages, let alone old-fashioned communications like putting something up at the school bulletin board.
So, what are your thoughts, Dano, on shooting lead? Like outdoors shooting lead? Like what's your thoughts on lead
It's
bullets?
a naturally occurring element.
So you have no problem with shooting lead or hunting with lead or anything like that?
No, none whatsoever. I mean, it'd be like against, using wood, on your grips. It's like, wait a minute, wood can get dry, and when it gets dry, it goes on fire, and fire can cause forest fires. And I mean, you can just, keep on going on. It's a naturally occurring thing in nature.
So I want to read something here. So this is Bill 8.703, GLIC ETAL. So explanation. So this legislation bans the use of lead ammunition for hunting on state-owned lands, as well on lands contributing surface water to New York City water supply. Given the dangers that lead pose to human health and to wildlife, this bill rightly recognizes there is no place for lead ammunition on public lands. Lead is a dangerous neurotoxin, producing especially devastating effects in children by disrupting brain development. Scientists have stated that there is no safe level of lead exposure for humans. Approximately 90% of the 10 billion rounds purchased every year in the United States contain lead. Lead bullets shatter into small pieces upon impact, and these pieces often go undetected in the carcass of an animal or are scattered throughout the landscape. The lead then passes through the food chain, poisoning wildlife and entering the water supply. Other jurisdictions have already recognized the dangers of lead contamination. The federal government banned the use of lead ammunition in waterfowl hunting in 1991 due to the large number of ducks and other birds that die each year from ingesting lead pellets. California passed a bill in 2013 that phased out all lead ammunition, with safer alternatives already on the market like copper ammunition. New York should follow suit and remove this source of lead from our environment. Lead does not belong in our water, food, or wildlife. The ongoing public health crisis caused by exposure to lead paint and lead in drinking water have demonstrated the aggressive action is needed to reduce the presence of lead in our environment. New York should take a strong step towards this goal by banning lead ammunition on public lands. So I want to say a couple of things about this is, like Daniel said, lead's found naturally recurring all over. All of our water supply is already treated for lead, no matter already, no matter what.
Unless you're
well, it's still treated for lead. It's just that the pipes are lead after it leaves the treatment facility.
True.
So but and then first of all, like let's say you're varmint hunting. Varmint hunters, like bullets don't stay in varmints. They're such high velocity and gophers and stuff like that. I mean, you're just even with the 22, the bullets don't stay in them. If you've ever shot a squirrel or something, you know what I'm talking about. Even with the pellet rifle, even with the lead pellet rifle, like it's the bullet. The projectile doesn't stay in it. And then if you're hunting large enough game, like a deer or something like that, nowadays everyone's using copper anyway because, well, we don't want to contaminate our own meat, because chances are if we're out there hunting, it's for food, right? And so everyone's using a copper bullet of some sort anyway. So or at least a copper plated bullet. So this isn't even a thing. It's like not even a thing.
Well,
like there was a study in California about the banning lead because of the California condor, right? Well, that whole thing was proven false. Like condors were never dying of lead poisoning. It was never like killing their babies. Like that was never happening.
I do want to point out though that there are public ranges, and for the purposes of target shooting, that's where you're probably going to get your lead, not out hunting. But
especially indoor ranges with lead vaporization, which is where lead's really dangerous, is by inhaling it when it's vaporized or ingesting it. But handling of lead is really not dangerous. Lead paint on your wall's not dangerous unless you start eating it. I mean, like, you have to ingest it. It won't go through your skin.
Actually, you're mostly right. I actually worked in the lead industry for 10 years making automotive batteries. So we had constant education on the dangers of lead and the various different ways of getting it within your body, and which methods are more dangerous than others as far as, if you get a certain amount in, does all of that come out or just some of it come out? And you mentioned in gaseous form. Yes, that is the most dangerous way to ingest lead. So if you're like making your own bullets with lead, and you don't have proper ventilation, that is by far the most dangerous way to get lead into your body, is through your lungs, because your lungs are a one-way filter system and there's no way out. Now, on the other hand, I don't think we have a lot of people out there in the wilderness licking the, human children, licking the ground where there was a recent kill, looking for those little bullet fragments to swallow. But even if they, for some reason, Daddy brings home a deer and there's a little splinter, a tiny knickknack of a piece of lead and a piece of meat that a child swallows, it is by far going if you're going to ingest any lead, the best way to ingest it is orally, because there's a system called an output system. You will output the vast majority of anything you swallow that way. I'm trying to word it carefully. So again, but I'm comparing it to inhaling the fumes, because they're lumping them all together as if they're all the same, and they're not. They are dramatically different.
Yeah, exactly. And and as far as everything I've heard is, I can pretty much roll around a lead bullet in my hands all day, and as long as I don't go to licking my fingers afterwards, as long as I wash my hands, I'm at no risk whatsoever of lead poisoning. Now, since you worked in this industry, is that true?
Well, the issue there is not so much getting it on your skin, and you kind of touched on what the heart of the issue really is whether it be industrial workers, and something that children also have a tendency to sometimes do, is not wash their hands properly. We actually had specialized soap to remove the lead from our hands before we would take a break or take lunch or go home for the day. We also had to leave our clothes there. But we got issued uniforms and so forth. But even those had to be washed with special chemicals to pull the lead out, which can be done. It just, you have to follow the rules, and the rules of safety. And if you wash your hands properly, you're not going to do it. But if you're doing finger licking good after you just got done rolling some hot lead in your hands, then yeah, you're going to orally ingest it, which again is by far the safest method if you're going to ingest any, and that's the best way to ingest it if you have to ingest it at all, versus breathing it in to your lungs, which is now in your body forever.
Yeah, and that's why you gotta, like, if you go to an indoor range, especially if it's like an older one that's not well ventilated, and there's some guy there and he's obviously shooting like real smoky reloads, and he's shooting all semi wad cutters, all lead semi wad cutters or something, and a lot of that lead's vaporizing, off the back of that bullet. Well, not a lot, but some of that lead's vaporizing right off the back of that bullet. So you want to be careful at indoor ranges. Like, I know some guys, like if there's a pin shoot at an indoor range, like even if it has good ventilation, they'll literally wear a mask, like a respirator, when they go to shoot indoors, no matter what. That's just what they do.
And it's most, and I think you mentioned this as well. It's by far more dangerous to children whose brains are still growing. It's not so much the bodies as it is their brain, because lead will affect and pass through the blood-brain barrier, and affect literally the intelligence of the individual through poisoning, basically. It just, they're using that to justify everything, and there is some justification there. It needs to be appropriate. Yeah, you probably may not be the best idea, especially without the proper safety equipment, to be teaching your young kids how to cast bullets. Now, if you have the proper safety equipment, then that may be just fine. But you need to do your due diligence, because you will have permanent effects on your own child if you are not careful.
Yeah, I got one of those little lead melting pots, and I did mine in the backyard, right? Like literally in the middle of the backyard. And I made sure when I did it that there was a slight breeze, and that breeze was basically towards my back, blowing everything away from me, right?
Right.
And that was about the best ventilation I could think of to get. And you know, and then I still wore a mask. You know, I still wore a paint respirator, and I don't know how effective that was for lead. Probably not very, but you know, I still, you know, wore a respirator. So, you know, because I've heard that like my whole life. I've pretty much heard that you know that lead vaporization. That you know that's pretty much the you know, but I've mainly heard about it from actually shooting the guns, being in like you know crappy indoor ranges and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and breathing that's just the worst thing. So do you have any 2A news, Dano? Is there anything going on in Illinois?
There is, but I'm not in touch with it at the moment.
What about any other gun news that you've let's see what's going on out there in comments. Where else can you take it? Can you take a suppository, a lead suppository?
You can, although that's called getting shot in the, well, you know.
Yeah. See what's going over there on let's see here, guy Santos Crunch. Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein would definitely fail a mental acuity test. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. So I kind of like when Dano said that, like some kind of acuity test, because just like how you know when people get so old that they might not be safe on the roads and they should be tested more often, maybe it sounds like it's discrimination, but I don't think it is. I think it's you know that's a real thing, right? Just because I've dealt with that with my grandmother and stuff, and you know I saw how you know how bad she got, right? And so I know how real that can be and how stubborn they can be. Like, oh no, I can still drive, I can still do stuff. And like, no, you can't. Like, you're dangerous right now. Like, you're a danger to everyone driving right now. And,
Yeah, my father's elderly at this point, and he's at the point. I just a couple months ago, it was just me and him, and and I mentioned I said it seems you know you've got early onset of frozen neck syndrome. He said, what? And I said, yeah, I sat in the back seat and I watched you drive. I said, you would change lanes looking at the mirror, but never turning your head because you've been that way 1,000 times. Therefore, you think the traffic never changes. So if you look at your mirror, you must have checked your blind spot. When in fact, that's not true at all. You didn't check anything. And he laughed because he knew it was true.
Echo out there in the chat says that that they found in California that birds were eating the paint off the sides of buildings, right? And that's where they were getting like lead poisoning from.
Right, and that's been an issue that we've known and have been fighting since the 1960s. Yeah. But it takes multiple decades to, you know, whether it's old apartment buildings or other structures, you know, to get either taken down or cleaned properly and repainted and sealed. The same thing with asbestos. I mean, there's still buildings with asbestos in it that people are living in. It takes a long time to rebuild.
Well, we're still building stuff with asbestos, though. Like, see, we still make stuff with asbestos every day. We still make insulation for things with asbestos. We still make brake pads with asbestos. We still, I mean,
automotive batteries.
Yeah, like asbestos is still used too. It's not even like it's. I've heard from a couple people. One of them was on a job site. He like that was his job, was like asbestos removal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wore like literally like a spaceman suit with like a fresh air oxygen supply from like a trailer, right? Like literally just like a guy walking on the moon for real. And
right.
Like not like the cheesy thin ones you see in movies. Like no, like this thing was like thick and like big. And he said it was all a scam. He said asbestos was like all a scam, like the whole asbestos removal. And like he's like, oh, this is a scam. It's all a money making scam. So
and I say this applies to myself as well. I am no scientist, and neither was he.
Yeah.
I mean, and although yeah, I worked in the automotive lead industry battery, I can tell you what I was told over years. But I was not the scientist that did those studies.
Well, what were you told? Let's hear it.
Well, no, I already told you.
Oh.
In my previous in regards to the lead intake and why the what's up with lead
I
in
thought you were
the
saying
hands and
that they
stuff like
used
that.
asbestos in the batteries too. I thought you said.
So, I'm sorry, say again.
I thought you said when I was saying the asbestos, I thought you said batteries too. When I was saying that they use asbestos and all sorts of things, so I thought you might have experience with the.
Oh, not with asbestos, no. But
Okay.
everybody's largest exposure by far in regards to lead is the battery that you depend on every day in your car.
Probably.
Well, there's no probably about it. Where else do you carry 35 plus pounds of lead? I mean, you might.
My
if you're going to the range.
45, my 45.
Especially if it's going to be, a big outing. Well, let's take a couple thousand rounds. Then you got more lead than the battery.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't think of any other place on the car that would have. I'm sure the radio would have some in it, and that's all I can really think of. Maybe some of the components of the computer, like a heat sink or something. I don't know.
Well, they typically use like aluminum.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know I've lived in houses with lead paint before, though, that were old enough that had many that probably had like 30 coats of lead paint, and then like 50 coats of like different latex and crap on top of that. Like, I've lived in man, like the first house I ever got was a house that was built in like 1907 or something. So, it,
Yeah. In fact, there are houses my great grandfather built in the early 1900s. I'm talking like 1903, 1901, 1907 that are still standing today that I guarantee you have lead in them today. And that's what I mean by although we identified it and started doing things in the 60s, it takes a long time to remake the world, which is what it's going to, until all these buildings literally come down. Or I find it ironic the term sometimes they use is called raised when in fact you're lowering it. But until all these buildings are raised, so to speak, the problem will continue to exist. And what people have been doing, since the 60s is trying to cover it up with, well, if I just put more paint, non-lead paint on it, that will keep it down. Well, it's still there though. And that's not truly a good seal.
I'm just trying to think of all the many varmints I've shot with just a little 22 long rifle, right? Just pretty much the weakest thing you're gonna use to do that kind of stuff.
A lead
with a lead bullet, yeah, it's like a 40 grain lead bullet, and just like a copper wash bullet, not even like a real copper jacket, and stuff like that. And I mean, the projectile or even pieces of the projectile staying in the varmints is not like a thing. It's just not. It's like no bird comes along and like, oh, they're still part of, like, it's just not. I mean, all these varmints are so small and everything, and then as soon as you step up to like the next size up of animal, like, well, you're stepping up to probably a larger caliber and a larger bullet, and then as soon as you do that, like, no one's shooting a solid lead projectile out of their 223 or something, right? But this bans like even plated projectiles or full metal jacket projectiles that just have a lead core, which is just nonsense. Like, that's
right,
because nonsense.
Over, let's say 10,000 years of natural wear and tear of the environment, it might actually break down. Over 10,000 years, and God knows, when it gets diffused in the environment over a 10,000 year period, is it a danger? Can you even detect it as a variation from the background lead that's already in the existing water anyway?
Well, I think it's just another step to raise lead prices and ban lead, just like they did like hemp back in the day and push lithium. And because like alkaline batteries and stuff won't exist without lead, right? So, yeah, I think it's just a push They're like, oh, everything needs to be lithium, and then yeah, I think the whole thing's just a big, just like global warming. It's just a big, how can we get more money out of you with this? How can we tax you more? How can we make you worry?
How can we get more of your money and more control? And the control is to get more money. It's almost like an endless loop. I mean, if they get a little bit more control just by like death by 1,000 paper cuts, just a little bit more, just a hair more control, then over time, rinse, lather, repeat, rinse, lather, repeat, rinse, lather, repeat.
Yeah, Echo makes a point out there. What about those lead fishing anchors, right? So I can't even tell you how many of those things I've had in my mouth and biting down on as a kid, and just like, oh my god, like just the little Pac-Man round like lead fishing anchors that you just like clamp onto the string, like, oh my gosh, like yeah, like how many of those have been like in our public waters and stuff, like
and lead is not like chalk. You can't like take a piece of like I don't know where the term lead pencil came from, but it's not like you can take a piece of lead and wipe it against your arm and you'll see a mark there of which is lead residue. It's not like that.
Oh no. Let's see here.
But the lead that we work with today is all alloys. It's lead plus something else, plus tin, plus something else, depending on what the use for the lead is. Recycled lead.
I don't know. I don't even know if I think even when I was like going to school, like when I very first started school, like preschool or kindergarten, like back in the early 80s, I think even then it was already graphite pencils. I don't even think like then it was.
It was graphite when I was in school in the 70s.
Yeah.
Because again, although the awareness was in the 60s, and I was born in the.
But that was just from kids like chewing on their pencils. Like that wasn't because like people were getting poisoned by the lead on the paper or anything. I don't think. I think it was just kids like, oh, I'm going to chew on my pencil.
Yeah. It's like Elmer's glue. Thank goodness that's not dangerous, because I can't tell you when I came home from kindergarten, we had an art project where we had to glue pretzels to a piece of paper, and on the way home I was hungry on the bus. Draw your own conclusions.
Oh, here we go. I got a story here. All right. Detroit firearm instructor plans free gun lessons for 900 women in one day. So this is a great event put on by Legally Armed in Detroit at their own expense. This would be an excellent opportunity for an ammunition manufacturer to get on board as a sponsor and help out a great cause. Women Gun Firearms Training, Rick Ector, Legally Armed in Detroit. So, Legally Armed in Detroit, a gun rights advocacy group, has announced that it'll provide a free firearm shooting lesson at a Southeast Michigan target range for 900 women interested in learning more about firearms and personal protection. There will be no charge for the firearm instructor's safety briefing, the usage of a firearm, ammunition, and range time. Participation is 100% free for all attendees. No prior firearms training or experience is required of the women who desire to take advantage of the lesson. Further, experienced women merely desiring to improve their marksmanship skills are also welcome to attend. The free shooting lesson offer was the brainchild of Rick Ector, an NRA-approved firearms trainer, after seeing a local television newscast of a young woman's body being discovered on the east side Detroit Street 8 years ago. This year's event will be the 8th consecutive year it has been conducted. In the first year, only 50 women were trained. However, last year, the event grew sufficiently to teach over 700 how to safely operate a pistol. This year's goal is 900 trained women over the day-long event. It is only with the cooperation of Ector's fellow firearm instructor colleagues and supporters across social media that this event could even be attempted and safely conducted. Ector believes that there are many women in the state of Michigan who are curious about firearms and their role in self-defense, but are reluctant to investigate due to fears. He said if giving women a free lesson by a credentialed professional translates into women just trying it, it'll be a productive use of my time. The ladies' free shooting event will be held on Sunday, May 19th, 2019, at the Top Gun Shooting Sports Range at 22050 Pennsylvania in Taylor, Michigan. Free advanced pre-registration is required for participation. Interested ladies should visit the following event page on Facebook for more info, and I'll throw that out there in case anyone wants to share that on their feed. Man, what do you think about this event, Dano?
I'd like with that massive quantity of students in a single day, I'd like to know more about what's involved in the training.
Oh, I'm assuming it's going to be very basic firearm safety, except unless the woman already has experience, then the instructor might be like, oh, you need, do this and, put your thumb like that, and that's from what it said above. That's what I'm taking. It's mainly, I think, geared for women who don't have any clue about firearm safety, or maybe have ever even shot a gun, but they're worried about ending up dead on the west side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is awesome.
Beyond, going through the safety rules and then, examples thereof, and then having at least, okay, you tell me what you think those rules mean in your own words, not that they have to memorize the definition, but at least just to show that they understand the concept of each one. You also have to at least teach them how do these things work, these tools work.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be some seminar where he talks to him and explains the basic mechanics of the gun. I'm sure they got it. Dude, he's been doing this for what, 9 years, he said? So
yeah. Now, if they're cycling guns, let's say, they're doing the loading and unloading for the students, then that's different.
And just as well as I do, Dana, all it really takes is just to take people actually shooting once. Yeah. And then people who are even against it are like, oh, yeah, this ain't so bad, right? So I think that's their whole thing, and that's the gun shop's probably making money off of it in the end, because then the women are like, oh, I am going to buy a gun. I'll come back here and buy this Glock 43 and right? And so I'm sure they're making money off of it in the end, but I think that it's man, there's going to be 900 women who might not have ever shot a gun or even own a gun that might walk away from this being like, oh, I'm a gun owner now. I'm pro gun. I'm pro 2A in one day. Right? And before they were one of those middle people we talk about, right? They're not really anti-gun, but they're not really pro-gun. But they might walk away from this oh, I'm pro-gun now. Right?
And the goal is definitely worthwhile. And I'm not saying that they've reached the point of which I'm about to discuss, but my long-term concern is at some point you would reach the level of it's now become the fast food of training. And what I mean by that is you reach a point of diminishing returns in regards to maintaining that level of safety that's required, because you're trying to push too many people through in one day.
Yeah, this is a free class too, though, so I can't imagine I'm looking at a picture in here, right? And it looks like he maybe has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 24. So it looks like he maybe has 30, 35 people in this room, 35 to 40 people. So they're probably, bringing them in through groups, right? Because again, this is at a gun range, right? So it's not like they're going to fit 900 people in there at once.
Yeah, but I can't imagine the other 650 standing outside in the parking lot waiting their turn, knowing that it might be hours until they get their classroom turn.
Well, it said RSVP in advance, so I'm sure that they're going to be rotating them around in probably groups of 40 or so, it looks like. So like there'll probably be like 40 on the range shooting and 40 in the group getting the seminar and 40 in the group getting the safety, and like, you know, they're all going, you know, I'm sure they got to be doing something like that. Either way, no matter how they're doing it, like I said, even if it's just basic gun safety, like keep your finger off the trigger, right? And then just letting them shoot a pistol. I don't give a shit about the diminishing returns. They can figure that out later down the road and get their own
No,
training once
I'm
they
talking
go buy a
about
gun.
the returns of maintaining safety. You know, pushing the quantity numbers. Well, now we're going to try for this higher number, and you know, it's in at some point you start to potentially degrade your safety standards by pushing too many people too fast, trying to attain some record. And I'm not saying they've hit that level. I'm just saying whether, I don't know if that's 1,000, I don't know if that's 2,000, I don't know what that is, but at some point it will be hit.
And then we got a breaking news warning coming out of Mechanic Falls. Where's Mechanic Falls at, Dano?
Do we have a state?
Like, I don't know. It's Mechanic Falls. That's all I'm seeing here. It's like I'm trying to figure out the state. So anyway, wherever Mechanic, like they don't even list an area code. They list a phone number, but no area code. So I can't even look it up by the area code. Mechanic Falls.
Is it Mechanic Falls, Maine?
I don't know.
It doesn't Mechanic Falls.
So, but okay, so
Mechanic Falls I see is in Maine.
Okay, so in Mechanic Falls, breaking news. This is warning out to the public today that a 22 caliber pistol and ammunition was stolen from a motor vehicle. The police urged the public to be on the lookout and be aware. So, warning public. Warning out there. 22 caliber pistols out on the loose.
It's on the hunt.
Yep. See, California Senate Appropriations Committee to hear firearms bills. Senate Bill 120 would expand the penalties for violations of California's transportation laws, including in vehicles or on a person, and the penalties include a 10-year probation of firearm ownership. Senate Bill 172 would expand California's existing storage laws. I guess that's it. So, two bad bills, Senate Bill 120, Senate Bill 172, which I guess is going to want longer jail time if you have a gun in your car or something, or a bad gun, I guess. And then, you know, your storage laws, like, yeah, you need a gun safe in California. An approved DOJ gun safe. Or is it COJ? I guess it's COJ, huh? Okay. Oh, let's see here. What other news do we got? Oh, did you see that new Glock site I posted on the front page, Dano?
No.
Oh, you did not. Oh, so I posted this new Glock Red Dot site on the front page of Gun Channels a couple days ago.
Oh, and, I was just gonna say I'm scanning it now. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find it. I mean, this thing is awesome. So, Noblex Glock MOS site is what it's called. Noblex. So this little site is not much bigger than like your regular rear sight. Like it's a little bigger, but like not much bigger. It's not near as big as an RMR. And you know, like the cover plates, like when people get their slide milled and then they don't want a red dot on it for whatever reason that day, so they put on the little cover plate that makes it look like a normal slide again.
Right.
That is the red dot. That cover plate is the red dot, and then it just has this tiny little window popping up that's a little bit bigger than your rear sight. So I'll screen share a picture here. I mean, I think this is just, I don't know. I think this is kind of like the cat's meow right here. I got to turn up my bandwidth. Dang bandwidth. All right, let's see here. Share. All right. Can you see this?
Yep.
Look at that. So that's a picture. That's.
So well, I see that, you know, maybe 2/3 the height of a typical one.
Yeah, so there's the rear sight. So it's a little bit bigger than the rear sight, but it's not near as big as like an RMR or any like there. That's a better picture. You don't got a rear sight on this gun to compare it with, but I mean,
Mhm.
you can see the actual window of it, like not the actual sight, but the actual window isn't much bigger than a rear sight. You know, it's and I think this thing is neat. I am really looking forward, and I think the price on it was cheaper than an RMR. And man,
What would be interesting is to take a what I'll call a standard RMR and then one of those in the same type of gun, and then practice a couple draws and sight acquisition to see if that size of the window has any bearing whatsoever in
oh,
regards to the time and sight acquisition.
well, I think it is because one of the biggest things about a dot is that it sits so much higher up off your slide. You don't got that if you've practiced a lot, coming up in that, you know, target acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's off, and now you got to dip your gun down, because you're just coming up too high with the red dot. So this sits much lower with the lower bore access. So I just and it looks like it's right with the site, like it's co-witness with the site. I saw another picture on another website where they were actually looking through the back of this thing with the site, with the rear and front sight, and the dot was like perfect right on top of the front sight. Like
Yeah.
it was
Well, I could
perfect.
definitely see that it's going to be more accurate being a lower bore access, but the site acquisition time, at least in self-defense situations, is far more important than a quarter of an inch or a half an inch.
Oh yeah, but it's not. This thing is still going to be faster than standard sights.
Well, I can't. Well, okay, yeah, than standard sights, I would think so.
But I'm really looking forward to this, and I think the price on it, I want to say it was only like $389 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that much. I don't know if it says on this article, but
I got to step away for a few minutes.
What's that?
I said I got to step away for a few minutes. I'll be back.
Oh, okay. So I just thought this was just really, really good. This is probably I don't know, the biggest thing. This was at that IWA, that basically Israeli defense show that just happened, and this is what was debuted there. And boy, um, I'm really excited about this. So I'm not sure if it fits a RMR cut or what type of cut. I don't. It might. I don't know. I think it might be Glock MOS is what I'm thinking. This might just be like that's probably what they did, judging by this pic. I don't know, but either way, I'm looking forward to that. This would make me buy a Glock MOS. If this is for Glock MOS, I would probably buy a Glock MOS just for this. This is just neat. 6 MOA dot. Oh, initially available with the 6 MOA dot. They'll go to let's see here, but they'll have different dots, reflex type. Oh, it looks like it's on a doctor cut. Okay, so it's on a doctor cut, so that's going to be the same as like some of the vortexes and stuff, I believe. Yeah. Oh no, oh no, it is a MOS. Oh, okay. So yeah, new Glock MOS. Yep. I like the looks of that. Noblex. Anyone have a Noblex optic? I don't. Let's see here. That site looks yeah. My Holosun should be here on Wednesday. It actually gets here on Wednesday. It was supposed to be here today, but then it got pushed back to Wednesday for some reason. Like it has been sitting in Kansas since last Thursday. My red dot has. For some reason, it got to Kansas on Thursday and just stopped. and has been sitting in Kansas since Thursday. So I don't. And then it got pushed back to Wednesday for delivery. But if I actually get it on Wednesday, hey, it'll only have taken Optics Planet 2 weeks to send it to me. So that's about right. It's about normal. I think Optics Planet called the post office and said, "Hey, you better hold that package up. We don't want them to get it too fast because then they'll actually start to expect something up from us. We don't want that." Let's see. I don't have any more.
I'm back.
Let's see here.
He's back.
Did you listen to Midnight Range chat last night? Yeah.
I saw a couple of minutes of it. I didn't see most of it.
Yeah, he got a new toy. He got given a new toy.
What was he
given? Repo. Yeah.
What's
he got
that?
given a Howa 1500 223 RAM.
That was nice. How did he manage that?
I think his boss or someone gave it to him, or brother. It's like someone gave it to him. I missed who it was that gave it to him. I can't always hear
the thing.
Yeah, like gave it to him, and I think another, like his brother. Was it his uncle? Like I can't. I missed who it was who gave it to him, but
is it like a birthday thing, or
I don't know. But he got a rifle and he's looking for an optic for it. 223 RAM.
Anybody ever give you a gun as a gift?
My mother.
Oh, there you go. I
know a couple times, like like a couple times. Yeah, like my mother a couple times. Yeah.
But then again, I'm the only gun person in my family, period, by far. So I guess I shouldn't expect that sort of thing. I mean, I can't even ask for like, hey, could you get me a couple of boxes of ammo? They're like $10 a piece. well, that kind of goes against how we believe, Dan. And
my wife did that when she got me ammo as a gift, right? And went to, I can't remember, but like she went to like the most expensive place you could ever possibly go to and paid like twice as much as what she should have for everything.
Yeah.
Right. And like just like I saw the price tags on the boxes and I was just like grinding my teeth and biting my tongue, and I was just like,
thank you, honey.
$50 for 500 rounds of 22 long rifle. That's awesome. Oh, cool. Yeah. Thank you.
But you know what? At least she was willing to do it and felt that you were worth the $50.
Oh no, she bought like $400 in ammo and overpaid like in that kind of prices.
Oh, okay. Well you're still worth
yeah, I mean it was more than just like a butt. Like, yeah, I was like grinding my teeth. Like, great, you bought $200 in ammo and spent $400. Yay! But I was like, oh, it could have been worse. You could have just like got me like something like totally like I wouldn't even
used it ever.
Yeah, right. So I was like, oh, it could be worse. But then I was smart and I was like, oh, that's my own fault really for not, like telling her like, oh, like pretty much if you go to like any of these stores to buy ammo, you're gonna get pretty much ripped off. Like you can go to Walmart to buy these couple kinds of ammo, or you go to this website. Like I should have taught her that, right? So I was like, oh, that's kind of my own fault, not her. So.
Or even just, oh, by the way, just category wise, if you're thinking anything, firearm related, here's a good place to go that you won't get taken to the cleaners. If you're thinking something else, then here's a different place.
I pretty much just buy my own like birthday gifts and stuff nowadays. So I'll just buy myself something and it'll come and I'll be like, oh, by the way, like look what came today, and they're like, oh, cool, and I'll be like, yeah, thanks. This is for my birthday from you guys. Thanks.
Well, that is the best way to do it, and it had nothing to do with my marriage dissolving, but when I was married, there were years that I said, I can go to the store and pick you out something, and you can say, oh, that's so nice that he picked this out for me, and then you'll never like it or appreciate it. Or you can just go get what you actually like and will use it, will wear it, and actually enjoy it. Which would you prefer? Well, can't you get me something nice? It's like I just got done explaining why I won't, regardless of what I think. Because
with women, it's the thought that counts, right? It's the thought that you struggled and it's like going to conquer the dragon to bring back the dragon's tooth to prove
the thought that counts. And you remember back when they had like quarter machines, you could put a quarter in at the exit of like a retail store, and some of them were bubble gum machines, some of them in a plastic ball. They had like little toys and stuff. You could put in one quarter and you rotate the dial, and then out would come this little plastic ball, clear plastic ball, and had some sort of toy or something in it. It's like, well, if it's just a thought, it's like, well, I remembered the day and I got you this widget. Aren't you happy? What do you mean? I thought it was just a thought. It doesn't. So the fact that it only cost a quarter, so now something means something. It didn't cost, $250. Anyway, I never did that, but I'm just saying that the idea that, it's the thought that counts. Yeah, you keep up that idea, you get her something even cheaper, and you'll find out that it's more than the thought that counts. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I just so the thing I think that the thought that counts, where that comes into play, because I'm kind of handy, so I've handmade like a lot of stuff, right? And that seems to work like pretty good. Like even if what I do isn't, if I'm not that happy with it, I'm just like, this is like kind of shitty, right? Like they seem to be like pretty happy with this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, if somebody's got artsy sort of skills, well, that's great. But most of us don't.
If all else fails, just buy diamonds. Diamonds always work. Always.
Yeah, but that is such a rip-off market in regards to the markup, as well as what is the quality. You're taking some dude's word, and just because he's certified by some institute doesn't mean he's not a liar. And there's a reason that these places, a couple times a year can have 80% off. How do you think they do that? Do you think they ever give away something without at least some profit in it?
So they can. I was like watching a thing that was kind of like talking what you just said about the scam, right, of diamonds and stuff. And they're saying that in a lab right now, they can basically grow real diamonds. They're real. They're not fake. They're not like cubic zirconium or whatever. Like it's a real diamond.
Diamond crystals.
And it's perfect. The crystalline structure is absolutely perfect. So it gets like the best sparkle and catches the light just right and throws the light just right.
What gives it away as a fake.
Well, not necessarily.
I don't want to say it's not a fake, but gives it away as not a natural diamond.
But it's not worth near as much as the natural, because the imperfections, the quote unquote imperfections of the natural. Now, it used to be that the diamonds were so perfect, right? But now it's the natural diamonds are the imperfections in them are what give them character and make them make them retain their value. So they've somehow still manipulated people into thinking that, I would still like pay more money for a natural diamond because it has flaws versus something that's like 100% like structurally sound and like perfect, 100% perfect. Yeah. Just because it came out of a lab. I'm like, dude, I'd rather have the perfect thing out of a lab. Like it's, if it's the exact same thing and better, like in every way, yeah.
But when you see that as man-made, therefore it's not natural, therefore it's not as valuable. And the fact that there is even they want the most natural with the most minimum amount of defects and size, of course. And of course, it's the opposite of size. The larger you get, the more likely you are to get defects to be seen. So to get a really huge diamond with almost imperceptible defects is like impossible.
Like when I got my band, my wedding band, I was like, oh, what am I gonna get, right? Like gold, silver, platinum. No, tungsten carbide. Yep. I just went with good old fashioned tungsten carbide.
I didn't, only because I never knew that such a thing existed at the time that I got married. At least they didn't have, and they probably didn't have any at the jewelry shop, because I don't know, are they less expensive?
Oh yeah,
That's probably why they didn't carry them at the jewelry store, is because they didn't want you buying them.
Yeah, you can get like a really good. Well, I've seen like ads like super cheap, but you can get like a really good one for like $100, $150.
Yeah, they want you to buy the gold one that might be $350 to $500.
Yeah, but see, gold melts though on the sun. My tungsten carbide won't melt on the sun. So there you go. Like I can throw my tungsten carbide ring at the sun and it won't melt. So
if you ever plan on walking on the sun,
yeah, I'm saying I'm kind of like the greatest like drill bits and stuff, like tungsten carbide, and just yep.
So does that mean if it got hit by a bolt of lightning, it wouldn't melt? Although a bolt of lightning is what, 10 times or 100 times the temperature of the sun?
I think it would melt then. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess it would depend. Still, I know though one reason I got the real reason I kind of went with the tungsten carbide though is like gold and materials like that. If your hand's like squished in something, it can pretty much like cut off your finger, right? Well, this tungsten carbide, instead of squishing, because it's so hard, it's such a hard material, it's kind of brittle. Not like as brittle as porcelain. Like I can smack it real hard on stuff, it's not going to break. But when it starts getting crushed, then it's just going to kind of snap in pieces, right? And not actually like oval and crush down. So if I ever, it's going to shatter. So if I ever got my hand or something ran over or crushed or something, it's not going to cut off my finger. And so that's the real reason I went with it. But
we have and of course the gold rings that the men wear nowadays, they're all gold alloy. You know, they're not pure gold, but you got to be really good about taking the ring off before you do anything mechanical. Otherwise, inevitably, you will damage, score the gold on it, and it'll start to get really ugly. As well as the potential is to lose a finger, have it get caught in machinery, which you can lose a finger getting caught in machinery without a ring. I knew a guy that happened to. Speaking of the battery plant. The danger isn't always, there's liquid lead in there. It burns. It's poisonous. It's not always that. There's sulfuric acid in there. It's not always that. Sometimes it's just the regular old machines that, help you assemble things, that pinch and pull and do this and that.
Yeah, well, all sorts of. I mean, I've seen people. If you've never worked with your hands, and have done that kind of work, it might be hard to imagine. But if you've ran machinery, whether it's hammer drills or jackhammers or saws or grinders and drill presses and welders and stuff all day, man. Like you look at guys who really have worked with their hands, framers and stuff. There's not a single one of them that doesn't have battle scars on their hands. Like, some good battle scars. Like it's just going to happen. Doesn't matter how good you are, how careful, man, it's going to happen, dude. It is. It's.
You just hope it's going to be small.
Yeah, exactly. You're just hoping it's cuts and bruises. You know what I mean?
But it's going to happen. But you're right. But that's why, like taking the ring off thing, you really got to. And if you've forgotten you're on the floor, the shop floor, take a 30 seconds, take your gloves off, pull your ring off, put it in your pocket, and put your glove back on and restart the machine.
So I had some when I was a kid. I had this like stupid necklace, right? I can't remember what it was, like some stupid necklace. And I was probably like 16 maybe at the time. Working this job, like just started doing like heating and air conditioning.
Was it puka shells?
Oh no, no, it might have been a shark tooth or something.
Oh yeah, snaggletooth.
Yeah. So and it was like long too, and I think it was like on a hemp rope or something, and someone gave it to me or something, and I had it on, and I don't know why I was like so stupid. This thing was like pretty long, right? Like it hung down like longer than what it should have been, and I was leaning over this air conditioning unit, and the thing turned on, and it has like a condenser fan blade like in the top of it, and it hit that and caught it and kind of yanked me down for a split second before it broke. And it didn't like hurt me or anything, but boy, did it scare the living shit out of me, man. And like from that day on, I was like, oh, I am never wearing, like, I always kept my shirt tucked in after that. Like, and just also, yeah, that kind of like gave me a real wake up call. Like, oh,
in 1.5 seconds, you got a life lesson.
Yep. That stuck with you, yeah, like really a life lesson.
I'm sure somebody beforehand may have even in an off-cover mentioned whether it be long hair you have to put in a ponytail. And I'm not saying you ever had that, but I'm just saying something about in being around machinery about how that can pull you right into the machine.
Nope. I just didn't even I just wasn't even thinking about it like that, kind of like, like, oh, the fan blade's inside the machine. My necklace isn't going to like slide down in between these, like, you just don't think about stuff like that when you're a dumb kid, right? And like if there wasn't a cover on that and I would have had like a stronger necklace or something,
Yeah,
it could end real bad.
Yeah.
But like after that, man, I
watched your wedding ring made out of?
What's that?
What kind of material is your wedding ring made out of?
Tungsten carbide.
Yeah, if you had a tungsten carbide necklace, your nose would be in a slightly different shape. If you're wondering what that is, that's American coffee. It's American because I'm American and I'm in America, so it's America coffee.
I only drink coffee if it's either super, super cold out or I'm like at a restaurant eating breakfast.
So what's your routine to like wake up in the morning then? Or you just wake up and you're automatically charged up?
Stretch, get up, and then just like get to it. Like open your eyes, start thinking about stuff, just, and soda pop or an energy drink sometimes. Well, I guess a soda pop always, right? But sometimes an energy drink. That just depends, I guess, on the day if I do the energy drink. I tried not to do the energy drinks that often.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably have 4 a week. So I don't know if that's like, I don't think it's that bad, but probably not good.
You mean the 16-ounce energy drinks?
Yeah, like just the regular canned, Rock Stars is what I usually drink.
Okay. The reason I ask is because there's also those energy shots.
Oh no, I never do that. No, I like the Green Apple Rockstar one.
Mm-hmm.
And or if I go to a place and they don't have the Rockstar, then I'll get the Chaos Monster, which is like 40% orange juice or something. So, but yeah, and if they don't, and then water, Mountain Dew, and maybe apple juice or orange juice once in a while. But really, I don't like have any like specific thing. I can just like milk, water, but not hot beverages, hot cocoa, hot chocolate, coffee. Man, it's either got to be like a piss poor cold day out and I'm already freezing, right? Or I got to be out like at Denny's eating breakfast. It's like the only way I can like eat, like drink hot beverages. I don't know how you guys do it in the summertime. Like, oh, it's like 90 degrees outside, 100 degrees. Oh, I want a cup of coffee.
Well, I don't do it like in the heat of the day. I'll do it like, early morning.
Still, it's like, man, I don't even want to get my core temperature up. I want to enjoy that, me being like kind of cold and chilled in the morning. Like, I want to enjoy that for like the whole 10 minutes it lasts before the sun, hits me.
Well, I just don't like, driving or like moving around where it's like I'm moving at half speed, but I have to exert twice the energy just to move at half speed because my brain's not kicked in. Like you feel like you're still in bed, except you're not.
There's one simple trick that gets you right over that.
Cold water being thrown at you?
Nope. To be super interested in something, to really, really be like excited or like something, like,
Well, yeah. If you have a special event happening that day you're excited about, sure. That'll do it every time, except that's not daily life, at least not for me. I don't have something exciting to do every day. So anything out happening in the chat?
Let's see here. I was looking for more to it. Okay, let's see.
Did you? Yeah.
A crucifix. So Echo got the same thing happen with a crucifix and a serpentine belt on an automobile. Sounds like he got something caught. Let's see here. Caramel macchiato. What's a macchiato? Isn't a macchiato basically just like half coffee, half hot chocolate? Isn't that what a macchiato is?
I've never heard that term. Although I've heard of like cappuccino, which is a mixture of coffee and some sort of mocha. I think, at least the stuff I get in powder at the gas station with hot water is.
I am actually messaging someone right now that we haven't heard from in a long, long time. Holy crap. I'll tell you off air then, huh?
Okay.
Wow. Awesome.
I'm just looking at some of the comments over on the Gun Channel side. Somebody says, Amazon has killed my patience with slow shipping. Amazon, it's like, it has made people, has exacerbated people's impatience, generally speaking. People have no patience as a direct result of Amazon. I would say, yes, thank you, Amazon, for actually helping bring down society as we know it by making sure that the population at large has no patience for anything. I got to have it yesterday.
Dude, okay, so there's some things now that when I get on Amazon and they're like, you can get it today. Like, you can get it today if you order it in the next like 4 hours, and it'll still come today. And that's like at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning, and they're like, it'll still get there today. And I'm like, dude, like that's the same, like it's like pizza delivery, like 30 minutes or less. Wow.
And I suppose, if you live within, a couple hours of one of their distribution warehouses, that's possible. But, most people don't live quite that close.
Oh, they must open one here, because I get stuff now that I can get it the same day. I'm like,
but,
wow.
I remember the days back where, like, at the end of a magazine, I'm talking about the type that does not contain bullets, where you actually open it up and it's made of paper with staples in the middle. At the end of the magazine, there were classified ads in there that you could buy certain things, and that was our internet back at that time. If you wanted to try a new product, whether it be some sort of new loader for your rifle or some new cleaning widget, whatever, you would send $14.95 made out to New Products at P.O. Box 1234, Newtown, USA. And within 30 days, yes, I said 30 days, you might receive your package.
6 to 8 weeks was almost maybe 6 to 8 or 4 to 6. It was either one or the other. All the stuff I bought out of magazines. Yep.
It either did it by weeks or by months. But yeah, it was like never like in the same week, let alone 2 weeks, let alone 2 days.
Oh man, I can't even tell you like how many things I bought out of the back of magazines, right? When I was a kid. Like all sorts of stuff, like at a Soldier of Fortune and gun magazines and stuff. Just man,
Yeah.
like all like everything from like stink bombs to toy guns and real knives and like
Oh yeah, but I'm using that as an example.
They'd be like, must be 18 years old to order this knife. And I'd be like, oh yeah, right. Like they didn't ask for no ID. They never.
But I understand that younger folks today don't have historical perspective because they didn't grow up during that time. But still, the fact that once they're made aware of it, they then have another measuring stick as far as what's reasonable and what's not. And the fact that it used to take 6 to 8 weeks to get something, and now it's like they're complaining that it's not there in less than 24 hours may not be reasonable. Oh, that just can't be. Say it ain't so. Come on, kids.
Well, you know what, though, Dano? I'm all for that. Do you know why?
What's that?
Because when the end of the world comes, it'll weed out the weak. Because, like, none of those people will be prepared because they have, like, no stockpile of food or nothing because they're like, oh, I just get my stuff delivered every day off Amazon. What am I going to have for dinner tomorrow? It's like, oh, it's on its way from Amazon. So, I mean,
tomorrow's dinner is currently sitting, in a truck that's about to be delivered tomorrow morning at Walmart that I'll pick up later that same day.
Nah, but like I bet you there's some like old people and stuff, man, that just love Amazon because like can you imagine that you're super old and how hard it is going to the store and then you come home and then you're like, oh, I forgot that damn thing. You go all the way back like Amazon, like, oh yeah, so I like Amazon's probably good in that aspect, man, because how many sons and daughters has it saved from having to like go over and help mom or dad?
Well, when we're talking about, mom and dad with teenage kids is one thing. I don't disagree with you there. But with, let's say, older people, I would disagree with you because that is what they do. They don't go to work anymore. On Tuesday, I got the dentist, and then Harold's got the eye doctor on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I get my hair done. And then, of course, Friday is always grocery day. I mean, that's how they live their life, is they plan it through those sorts of things. So going out shopping for food or stuff is part of what they do. I mean, it's not like they got to go, till the back 40 or something. I mean, and they may have some little hobby, they putter with this or they putter with that, but Let's
see here. A week to get here in Columbia is only like a 3-hour drive away from Midway. Okay, yeah, the Smart Post and the Sure Post, 100% the worst shipping methods. Pay the $1 more or whatever for any other shipping method other than Smart Post and Sure Post. Those are the absolute slowest, worst ways to ever ship anything, ever. Because that's all that is FedEx or UPS basically taking it most of the way to your area and taking their time doing it too because they're in no hurry whatsoever. And then once it's there, then they're like, oh, now we'll just give it to the post office. And it always takes like several days longer than it normally would for Smart Post or SurePost.
But never mind.
What?
I was just going to say it would be very inefficient of either UPS, just using them as an example, to actually take the time to separate, oh, this is a SurePost. I don't know which one is which, but to take this one and separate it and put this in the slow lane on purpose, because that takes manual intervention, whether it's a machine separating it, whether it's a human separating it, and it's got to go on a special slow truck versus the regular truck. I mean, how they gain speed is through efficiency. They're not actually driving faster. They're just becoming more efficient. That's how they're getting things there faster. So to purposely do things slower would actually slow everything else down, because it would incrementally get in the way. Now, the post office is another story. I'm just talking about UPS. Yeah, I've had the post office, and I found that what I'm about to say out through a post office employee, that because I had problems where they kept marking my stuff as delivered, and then the following day actually deliver it. And the reason that they do that in my area, and of course they don't do this in all areas, but it's not an uncommon thing, is because they will get they get paid a certain amount from Amazon to deliver that package by that day. And if they don't deliver it at that day, they don't get paid as much, or they get paid nothing. So as long as they mark it, deliver it on that day, and the next day it shows up, they don't, they get the full amount, and they don't get, penalized by Amazon. And it also makes the customer less likely to complain, because instead of it being there at, by 8 o'clock at night, it was there by 2 in the afternoon the next day. It's like, do you really want to take the time to complain about it when it's already in your hands?
I don't know. I think with how fast planes and drones are nowadays, everything should just be droned in. Just they have a big plane fly overhead, right? And it doesn't even land. Like, the plane doesn't even land. It just flies overhead, drops the drones out with your packages, and they kind of like just free fall almost all the way to your house, and then like kick on at the last second to basically kind of stop, drop off your package, and then they just go to their like little. Then they're all they're really doing is just kind of flying to their back to their like little center, right?
The mothership.
Yeah, or to get loaded back on the next plane. Like, they're not going to fly all the way back up to the plane again. They just go to like a little center to get like recharged and put back on another plane. And dude, then we'll just have planes like flying around, dropping off all of our stuff. We'll have all of our stuff like faster than Amazon. It'll be like everything we order from everywhere will just be like.
Speaking of drones, I had an article last week, and I earmarked the page, except they must update the page because the article is gone, so I can't quite quote it. But there in Indianapolis, there was a crime where somebody broke into a house, or attempted to break into a house, and they were actually impersonating a police officer because they had a vest on that said police on it. And anyway, after the guy escaped, they actually, the police called, and they didn't say where exactly it came from, but they said they were able to task another agency. I'm trying to remember the way they phrased it. Another agency's drone to track the assailant. Now, they kept on going with the article as far as, and how they got the guy and they arrested him and what his name was and all that. But it's like, wait a minute. Why was there a drone standing on station that they could just pick up the radio or phone and say, yeah, we're tracking a guy going down Mulberry Street. Can you get your drone over there? His license number, XYZ123. I want you to follow the car and anybody that goes with them and tell me where they go. I mean, the fact that it was already, they didn't like launch it to go and track this guy. No, it was already up there. And that tells me that some large departments are flying drones 24/7 already. If Indianapolis, which is not a major city, it's a big city, but it's not like a major, it's not a Chicago, it's not a New York, it's not an LA, is got drones flying overhead 24/7, then you bet your larger cities are. It just, I was, looking for information on, well, what other agency, it didn't say law enforcement, it just said agency. So I assume it was the feds, but who knows? I mean, all we have to know is it's either federal or state or both. And that they'll loan it out to anybody who's as far as the information from it, that's connected with law enforcement. Now, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's an awareness and a change as far as for me, that the fact that there could be somebody overhead that I'm used to just the guy being around the corner catching on speeders, hiding behind a couple of trees. I'm not looking up in the trees to look at some plane the size of a kitchen table that's flying at 5,000 feet with a camera looking down. That's always going to be around for them to say, go over and look at this, go over and look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's a change that I guess I have mixed feelings about.
I know, but they've had satellites that can basically read our license plates and stuff, and up above our head forever. So,
but there are many. I'm going to just put a number out there. I don't know what the exact number is, but let's say that there's less than 100, but something, a substantial number of satellites up there that can do that. And I don't know, maybe it's only 12, because there are hundreds of thousands of satellites up there, but not all of them are for that purpose. But as far as drones, there are thousands and thousands of drones that anybody can launch at any time. And they're so cheap as compared to the cost of a satellite to do that sort of surveillance, where Indianapolis or some small town can just say, oh yeah, call to the county that and say, oh yeah, we have all these leftover drones, just like we have leftover MRAPs. Could you send that one over our way? We have a mobile home we'd like you to check out.
I know, but they're already flying over with helicopters with infrared and things that can basically already see through your walls, and they're already bouncing lasers off your window where they can hear the quietest conversations that you're having in your house with just using just a laser, right?
I've never liked the idea of warrantless observation. And that's where this is coming from for me. It goes to that. You got a warrant, then by all means listen all you want. But I don't want you just passively listening just because you can. It's like it was a couple of years ago. This is a different situation, but it goes to people doing something because they have the power and they can. There was a group of IRS employees that got fired because they were looking up famous people's tax income statements to see how much they made and where they made their money and that sort of thing, just for shits and giggles. Why? Because they can. They have that power. And that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about, except over in law enforcement and looking into things because they have the tools, although they're supposed to get a warrant, but they can because they have the technology and it's already there. All you got to do is flip this switch and you'll be looking inside that house. The ease of, it's so easy to abuse. I guess that's the part that bothers me, the ease of abuse.
Well, I think that's the part that should bother everybody about it. And not only that, is it's that they've been caught. People have been caught doing it, where they're not like getting evidence by not getting a warrant and doing methods like I talked about, and then trying to like use that as evidence against them. They'll do that, and then go and get other evidence, right? But they're still using it as like one of their tools in their bag. They're just not like using any of the evidence they collect from doing that. That they're using it as like intelligence and information gathering, right?
Right.
And
It's not evidence to submit to a court because it would be kicked out because there was no warrant.
exactly.
It was evidence in an ongoing investigation that they can't use, but they can still use it as information to get other stuff that they can use.
Exactly, and that's what they're doing with it. That's how they're circumventing this. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, that's what concerns me about local police departments having pick up the phone access to 1-800 get me a drone. Now they're not directly operating them, but when all they have to do is call on the radio, say do you have something over the area? What do you need? And that they might as well have their own. If all they got to do is pick up the phone.
Let's see here. We've been going for about 2 hours now. I think it's about that time. I think we've pretty much covered a lot of the news that I saw going on today.
I think so.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for our early watchers out there. Echo, Woods, Ohio 45, Guy that comments, Kingpin, let's see who else do we have over there. John Z, Patrick. And Patrick, if you're listening, I would like to talk to you sometime later today about some car issue stuff. We had Scott P79, we had Ozzy Osbourne, we had DTP, we had, let's see, who else did we have over here?
Over on the Gun Channel section, DT. I can never say this guy's username.
I say DTP.
FEIFFER.
Pfeiffer, yeah.
Pfeiffer? DTP Pfeiffer?
I think so. I just say DTP.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Let's see here. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Tomorrow on Tuesdays, I shoot right now because I basically get a free gun range to myself to shoot at on Tuesdays, and it's awesome. So that's why there is not an early watch on Tuesday right now. But we will be back Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. And if anyone has any 2A Gun News Early Watch news, I am going to set up a email for the Early Watch again, where you guys can email questions and 2A news that you would like talked about and discussed or shared and stuff like that. So I am in the process of setting that up. So did you have anything you wanted to throw out there, Dano?
Nope.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and stay vigilant.